Hello, and welcome to SportsLine. I'm Anna Gomez.
And I'm Brendan Rigney. Tons of sports action for you on this one. Cross country had another instance of split dual action, and women's soccer bounces back from an overtime loss against UMass with their own 1-0 win over Davidson. Later on the show, Callie Aronson will join us for some exploring headlines.
And then after that, Isaac Perry gives you this week's marquee matchup, and Jake Smolinski presents his picks of the week. But first, let's catch up on what went down this past week for our athletes. Women's cross country had split dual action as they ventured close to home and to the Greater Louisville Classic in Kentucky. At the Paul Short Run in Bethlehem, Emily Ward led 5 explorers in the 6-kilometer course, finishing in 22 minutes and 31 seconds. At LaSalle's first race in Louisville, the blue and gold managed to pace the 263-runner field. Sophomore Caitlin Poez took the top spot for the explorers in 99th place in 5 minutes and 49 seconds. Sophomore Megan Connell was just 4 seconds behind her, but took 124th. And continuing to make a splash on the roster is graduate transfer Lauren Columbare, who placed 3rd for the Explorers and 165th at an even 6 minutes.
The men's team also took part in the Louisville Classic, finishing 13th with 405 points. The Explorers averaged a time of 25 minutes and 18 seconds, thanks in large part to junior Bradley Hewer, who led LaSalle in 43rd place with a time of 40. Next up, senior Ian Barnhill crossed the finish line with a time of 25 minutes and 4 seconds, landing him in 74th place in the 213-man field. LaSalle will close out their regular season at the Princeton Invitational on October 17th before they head to Richmond for the Atlantic 10 Championship at the end of the month.
And the volleyball team's woes continued on October 3rd as the team dropped its 3rd consecutive match, this time in straight sets to A10 rival Duquesne. The first set was hard fought as Duquesne managed to hold off the Explorers and secure a 30-28 victory in a back-and-forth frame that included 11 ties. The second set was hardly any different. The Explorers did fall behind by 8 early on, but rallied back to 7 straight points to close the deficit. And the set remained close until the end when the Dukes sealed the deal 27-25. And following the break, Duquesne was able to retain their momentum and handily take down the blue and gold in the final set 25-14. Brianna Davis led the match with 15 kills.
After a 2-week break, women's soccer took the field once again to kick off Atlantic 10 Conference play, beginning with the University of Massachusetts on October 1st. LaSalle continued to struggle, adding to a 3-game losing streak after a devastating double overtime loss. LaSalle goalkeeper, Katie Genzinger held strong in the net with 5 saves until the 110th minute when UMass's Julia Waithofer scored on a free kick. The first Explorer chance at scoring came in the 103rd when sophomore Kristen Hogstad made a push for the goal. Junior Deja Davis tallied 3 shots on goal. Freshman Chloe Lewis and Marcella Robinson also notched a shot on goal each. The Explorers got back on track on their home turf on Sunday against Davidson. Making her SportsLine debut, Helen Stars has the coverage. Check it out.
After a particularly brutal overtime loss against UMass, LaSalle's women's soccer was searching for retribution. In one of LaSalle's best performances of the season, the chilly October game shutout against Duquesne on Sunday. Just 17 minutes into the first half, a single goal from number 29, Deja Davis, became a game winner for LaSalle. Sisters Macy and Madison Bauer followed that momentum in the 30th minute by taking consecutive shots on goal. The match was a power struggle between the Wildcats and the Explorers, save for Davidson's 4 total shots on goal. As the clock fell below 10 minutes, it was clear that Davidson was struggling to keep up the chase to tie it up, leading to late fouls and substitutions. LaSalle capitalized on the opportunity with shot after shot from Carrie Nichols, Jessica Kagan, and Kristen Hogstad. But it was Davis who continued to lead the Stripes Blue and goal for 14 shots against Davidson. LaSalle is now 1-1 in the Atlantic 10 with upcoming games against George Washington and St. Joe's. For SportsLine, I'm Helen Stars.
Well, we have a bit of an update here also. The women's soccer team just lost in overtime 2-1 to George Washington, dropping their record to 4-6 and 1-2 in the Atlantic 10 Conference. Deja Davis had the only goal for the LaSalle Explorers in the end of the 49th minute, and then GW just powered through at the 47th and then scored again in the 97th in overtime. Pretty upsetting. We thought they would get to carry the momentum. They've been a little bit of a roller coaster these past couple of weeks with the women's soccer team, but an overtime loss shows that they fought their hardest, so we're hoping that they'll rebound from that one and get back on the saddle. So, But let's talk about men's soccer. Following their heartbreaking loss to Villanova, the LaSalle men's soccer team continued to stay on the struggle bus as they faced the Fordham Rams in New York on Saturday, October 3rd. Atlanta 10 champion Fordham had a powerful team of brothers on their side. In the first 10 minutes of play, Yannick Loeb scored the first goal against LaSalle, and then his younger brother Giannis Loeb followed suit, scoring in the 43rd and 70th minute, shutting out LaSalle 3-0. Blue and gold keeper Mike Kirk faced 11 shots, with Tony Daniele and Ryan Nork the only players who managed to make a shot on Fordham each.
And with their first A-10 match behind them, men's soccer looked to turn their record around. In last week's marquee matchup, the Explorers in white took on Duquesne in red. And early on, the Dukes outplayed LaSalle, maintaining possession and staying nimble on their toes. But once the men got their feet in the water, number 11 Andrew Connors slid a beautiful shot to the back of the net. LaSalle held onto that lead through the end of the first half. But in the second, a foul on LaSalle pushed keeper Mike Kirk into the box to face Duquesne's Colin Phillips in a penalty kick. Phillips tied the score and then just minutes later doubled it to edge over the Explorers 2-1. But in the 74th minute, LaSalle retaliated with another Andrew Connors goal to tie it up 2-2. But then things got dicey once the players were forced into double overtime. The crowd bit their nails with every passing moment until Duquesne's Alex Hellion capitalized on a play to place the ball in the net just shy of Kirk's gloves. LaSalle fans fell silent to the cheers of Duquesne in another tough loss for the men of 20th and Alny. And this puts them at 0-2 in conference play. But next up is St. Bonaventure.
As field hockey prepared to take on Fairfield, Hurricane Joaquin arrived and forced a postponement on October the 2nd. LaSalle got a night of rest before facing Monmouth, and we have the coverage for you on October the 4th. Tyler Harper has your game recap.
Tyler Harper here on a windy Sunday afternoon at Hank Defensive Field as the LaSalle Explorers take on the Monmouth Hawks in a tight field hockey battle.
The majority of the first half was the defensive battle, with the Explorers in blue attempting to bring the ball to the other side of the field. It wasn't until the 23rd minute that sophomore April Steen scored her first goal of the season to break the scoreless tie. Fast forward to the second half, with Megan Keita's second goal of the season that doubled LaSalle's lead. 7 minutes later, Katie O'Grady cashed in on a penalty stroke to make the lead 3-0. Monmouth in white scored in the 60th minute to try to catch up, but the comeback did not pan out as LaSalle secured a 3-1 victory.
With the Explorers win here today and their last win coming a week ago here against St. Louis, it's the first time all year that the Explorers have won back-to-back games. Hopefully they can take this momentum and move forward as the season rolls on. For SportsLine, I'm Tyler Harper. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thank you, Tyler. Now comes our highlighted athlete of the week. Last week, the SportsLine team sat down with freshman volleyball star Taylor Height. Coincidentally enough, Taylor has been named the Go Explorers Athlete of the Month. The rookie finished the month of September by racking up 409 assists. Good grief. Congrats to Taylor. But that does it for last week's games. Now, joining us for some exploring headlines, Callie Aronson will be on in just a minute. But just real quick, tell me a little bit, Anna, about the what's it like to watch men's soccer perform? Because I understand you've been to quite a few of their games.
Yeah, it's really been thrilling. This past game against Duquesne was really, really exciting. I mean, when I say nail-biting, everyone in the stands was just so nervous for it. But unfortunately, they weren't able to take that lead. They had a lot of momentum going, but they weren't really able to clinch it. Same with Villanova. But unfortunately, I mean, we're going back to St. Bonaventure, so hopefully we'll see something happen with that.
We'll keep you updated on the men's soccer team's progress from here. But now, joining us for some exploring headlines, Callie Aronson. Callie, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic.
All right, let's get to it. While their season doesn't begin for another 6 weeks, the men and women's basketball team have hit the court and begun their practice for the 2015-2016 season. The men's team will be playing without centers Steve Jack and Jarrell Wright, who graduated last semester. The women will look to build off a second-round appearance in the A10 tournament last spring. The lacrosse team is adding some depth to its coaching staff, naming volunteer coach Chelsea Marshall to full assistant. The 2-year volunteer has had a hand in the Explorers' recent success. With the program tallying a record 11 wins last season, Marshall also worked closely with the breakout star Gabby Antonelli, whose strong performance in the cage last year earned her an A10 All-Rookie honors. Also making additions to its coaching staff, LaSalle's swimming and diving team announced the hiring of Mark Yakovich as an assistant coach. The Richboro, Pennsylvania native has spent the last 3 years as assistant coach at the Greater Philadelphia Aquatic Club, where he oversaw the daily practice schedules of over 80 swimmers. Yankovich graduated McDaniel College with a degree in exercise science and physical education and earned his master's in psychology at Washington College.
Well, thank you, Callie, for coming on. It's time for our first break, but please don't go anywhere.
And when we come back, we'll have your game previews and marquee matchup.
And later, Jake Smo will be here to give you his picks of the week, so please stick around.
Jump into the fun at the 4th Annual Explore Your Health Community Health Fair. On Saturday, October 10th, from 10 to 3 p.m., the shops at LaSalle will be hosting an array of events, including face painting, informational tables about nutritional tips and health screenings, massages, a 50-50 raffle, and live student performances. Come out and join the fun.
Where have you been?
I told you I was in a group project session.
You know I don't like it when you stay out this late.
But I told you
But
before.
I told you to always let me know where you are. And to always answer your phone.
I'm
You never
sorry.
listen. You know I worry about you. But still, you consistently never do what I say.
No! Stop! Stop!
Domestic abuse can happen to anyone.
If you or someone you know is in an abusive relationship, please call the number below. And remember, it is never the victim's fault.
Welcome back. There is plenty of LaSalle sports action this upcoming week, so let us highlight the games ahead for you. LaSalle field hockey is looking to continue its momentum as it heads south to Richmond, Virginia to play the Spiders on October 9th. After that, the Explorers stick around Richmond to battle VCU 2 days later. LaSalle is currently 4-6 overall and 1-4 in away games.
And the men's soccer team has a pair of games as they look to stop the bleeding and rebound from a 3-game losing streak. The Explorers will head up to New York to face St. Bonaventure on the 10th before returning to McCarthy Stadium on the 14th for their match against VCU. LaSalle currently sits at 4-7-1 and has not won a game since September 19th.
Now deep into A10 play, women's soccer heads to local rival St. Joe's to face the 6-5 Hawks on October the 11th. St. Joe's is 4-1 at home this season and is second in the league in goals, assists, and points.
And the volleyball team has a pair of matches up north as they play Rhode Island on the 9th and Fordham on the 10th. Rhode Island sits at 11-5 but are coming off a 2-game losing streak. The Rams themselves are in a 2-game losing streak again and are 7-13. LaSalle currently has a record of 6-13.
Now let's talk about some winter sports. LaSalle swimming and diving is back in action as the women's team hosts James Madison on October the 10th. The men's team will wait until the 21st to face rival Villanova. The Explorers performed fairly well last season, with the men winning 6 of their 8 meets and finishing 4th in the A10 championships. The women won 3 of their own meets and placed 7th in the A10s.
And the men's and women's rowing teams also return to action on the 10th as both the women's and the men's team will participate in the annual Navy Day Regatta. Both teams performed really well last year, but are looking to begin strong after kicking off last season with a slew of poor outings.
Well, in a few weeks, LaSalle Cross Country will truly test itself at one of its biggest races of the fall. But I don't want to give too much away here because Isaac Perry has your preview with the latest marquee matchup. Check it out.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Marquee Matchup. I'm Isaac Perry, here to tell you all you need to know about the upcoming exciting Princeton Invitational for the men and women's cross-country team. The men and women's cross-country teams are continuing to capitalize on the great successes they both had last year with another fantastic season. On October 17th, cross country will attempt to put it all together and leave it all out there at the Princeton Invitational. This team has plenty of leaders, but these two guys in particular are ahead of the pack, Brendan Robinson and Ian Barnhill. Remember, if you can dream it and believe in it, you certainly can achieve it. Brendan Robertson fits that description. Last year, he ran the 8K course, came in 166th place, and ran a time of 25 minutes and 41 seconds at the Paul Short Run. Just this past Friday, at that same event, he was the top scorer on the day for the men, who finished in 64th place overall with a time of 25 minutes and 7 seconds on the field. I say that's time pretty well spent. I expect him to take that next step and help lead this team to bigger things as the season goes on. Alongside him, I see fellow senior Ian Barnhill making his impact for the team and conference as well. The first cross-country meet this year, the Lehigh Invitational, he was the first explorer to cross the finish line with a time of 19 minutes and 46 seconds, which was good for 21st place. He followed that same performance up at the Mainline Invitational by finishing in 10th place with a time of 19 minutes and 50 seconds on the 4-mile course. When you talk about consistency, this guy definitely fits the bill, so I expect him to keep that up going forward, and good things will happen. Speaking of good things happening, let's talk about the women's cross-country team. The Explorers took 3rd place at the championships last year, edged out by Duquesne and Richmond, after being slated to take 2nd behind Richmond. This year is going to be a different year, as we expect the Explorers to continue running with all the heart, determination, and they will keep having that success going forward. Remember that nothing can bring you success but yourself. Sophomore Megan Cannell is one of the many people that embodies success. Last year, she was on the Atlantic 10 team thanks to her 12th place at the championships by running 18 minutes and 8 seconds. She followed that up so far this year at the Mainline Invitational, leading the women to a 5th place finish overall. She works really hard, and you can definitely see it in her eyes when she runs. Also slated to make an impression is sophomore Emily Ward. Last year, she started off finishing in 20th place at the Duquesne Duels in 19 minutes and 17 seconds. She also notched the top 10 finish at the Friends Big 5 Invitational, running in 14 minutes and 41 seconds. She was the top finisher this year at the Paul Short Run. That's what I call impact. She is poised to have a breakout year and continue to grow. Now that we touched on some individuals, let's see the two main things that have to happen for both teams to have successful races. Number one, they're going to be prepared and run races like it's your last. Run with the heart and passion that you're born with. The will to win means nothing if you don't have the will to prepare. When the race is over, each explorer can look in the mirror individually and as a team and say they worked their tail off to be the best of the best. Number two, believe in yourself and never give up. I know that may sound cliche, but hey, it's the truth. The explorers will have to believe that they could turn a lot of heads, compete, and finish strong. Anything is possible. Believe to achieve. Go get them, LaSalle. We're definitely rooting for you. Well, that does it for this week's marquee matchup. All of the action starts October the 17th at 11 a.m. at Princeton University in Princeton, New Jersey. For SportsLine, I'm Isaac Perry. Go Explorers!
Well, thank you very much, Isaac. It's time for another break, but when we return, Jake Smolinski will present his picks of the week for the LaSalle Explorers. Stay tuned.
Life is hard. Effective consent is simple. Do not make hookup decisions if you won't remember them. For more information on sexual assault, visit No More.
Well, welcome back. Anna, we've just highlighted some of the next few games for LaSalle Sports, but now let's kick it on over to Jake for his picks of the week.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Picks of the Week. I'm your host here, Jake Smolinski, in his favorite segment where Brendan Rigney has no idea what Jake is going to say, and I can usually try to freak him out a little bit. However, Brendan's actually sadly not here in the studio with me. Instead, I have this bulletin board, which kind of looks like Brendan, but not exactly quite. And I also have this fine magic marker that I'm going to be able to just write on here, courtesy of Tanya Ellis, trademark. Thank you, Tanya. Anyway, but before I get started, I wanted to just bring it over to last week, where I somehow managed to correctly predict the fact that women's soccer beat Davidson 1-0. Come on, please, at least some sort of applause for you, for those of you that are watching back in your home. I'm getting good. Anyway, but for this week though, this is some of my toughest choices that I've had to make as I'm trying to just analyze the teams, analyze the scores, and so I'm gonna take it right into my pick one, field hockey versus Richmond on October 9th. All right, this is an incredibly even A10 matchup for this season. Right now, LaSalle, we have a record of 4-6. Not horrible, not great. We have the chance to turn the season around, especially going into A10 play. The same thing goes for Richmond. They are at 5-6, and they've been playing against some of the toughest teams in the entire nation. This kind of takes us to my first point. Goals per game, right now, we're averaging around 1.7, goals against 1.8. Richmond is getting about a goals per game of 1.45 and then 2.91 against. And if you look at that right then, it's like shooing immediately. LaSalle's going to get it. However, Richmond has been playing one of the craziest schedules that I have seen in recent memory. Number 4, Virginia, and number 12, Wake Forest. Right now, we're coming off of 2 solid, huge wins, which is a great momentum builder. And I think this can kind of go 2 ways. We're going to either build momentum or we're going to get complacent as we go against Richmond, who's coming off of 2 losses. I think edge. 2-1 LaSalle. All right, going on to pick 2. I'm choosing men's soccer versus St. Bonaventure on October 10th. I got 2 words for St. Bonaventure. Hot mess. Right now, with a record of 1-9-1, in their entire season, they have scored 3 goals. God bless you, St. Bonaventure. You're 45 minutes from my home back in Buffalo, but geez, what is going on? They have 2 guys that have actually scored goals on their entire team. That's not exactly a good sign for an A10 team. But on the other hand, men's soccer, we're kind of on a bit of a landslide too. This is where I think that Coach Farrell is going to really like make just really put it to these guys. This is going to be like a purging for our team. Come on, if you're going into a game against a team that is 1-9-1, just ruin them. That's all I gotta say. I think we're gonna unload, and I think with our 11 goals compared to their 3, and our front line that is composed of Tony Danielle, Andrew Connors, Joe Hansen, Kennedy Coleman, and Joe Farrell, along with a bunch of other guys, they are all completely capable of scoring goals, all completely capable of just getting open up top. I think this is gonna be a huge one for us. We need this, and we need it to happen now. And so I'm gonna say, this is gonna be an upset. 3-0 win Explorers. And now this takes me to my final pick, women's soccer versus St. Joe's. And now I guess rival matches, they're always the hardest to predict. However, LaSalle, we're capable of great things, especially with our women's soccer team. I mean, our season opening tie against BU, one of the best teams in the nation, and winning 2-1 against Navy. I mean, come on. Against Navy, our squad against theirs, like, that's pretty serious. But then we lost to UMass and Temple right after each other, like just to kind of cap off that part of our season. And I think that kind of brings up the idea that, you know, our biggest struggle is just not having Kelsey Haycook. Our team had been so reliant on her, and that's why I feel like our scoring has gone down to around 15 goals out of 148 shots. So that's basically explaining the fact that we've had opportunities. We have a a pretty solid front line, but it's also a young front line. We have Thea Johnson, Mary Kay Bateman, Kristen Hogstad, and Madison Bauer starting like just trying to start playing off each other. It's a young team, not so used to playing like this way. It's not like we've been balanced all 4 years. This is their opportunity where they're gonna have to step up. And St. Joe's is a brutal team to play against, and they haven't exactly had the same sort of schedule, just like with field hockey. We know what we're capable of, though. St. Joe's doesn't. They have not played the same caliber teams that we've played. It's going to come down to us playing incredibly tough defense. And, you know, for the score, I'm going to have to go 1-0 on the upswing for LaSalle. I'm being positive this week. You know, sometimes I'll bomb the women's volleyball team, but I feel like this week it's going to be a positive for LaSalle sports, some really good matchups. So yeah, these are my picks of the week. I have faith, and I'm going to try to go for 2 out of 3 for this coming week. So anyway, that is it for picks of the week. I'm Jake Smolinski. Back to the desk.
Well, that just about wraps it up for us this week. If you can't make it out to see the marquee matchup, be sure to tune in next week for our coverage. And keep up with this weekend's other sporting events by visiting goexplorers.com and following us on Twitter at SportsLine LTV. We post game updates and sneak peeks into the upcoming show.
Also, check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/LaSalleTV. We welcome you to send us your thoughts and suggestions about the show on either website. Real quick before we go, I have a bit of a presentation slash proposal. We're going to go to camera 1. This is addressed to fellow senior LaSalle TV producer and talk show host Tyler Harper. Tyler, we're about to get out of this place now. It's getting pretty close. The walls are closing in. So I figured a good gift to give to Miss Tanya Ellis and the LaSalle TV crew would be a bit of a show swap. I'm proposing that I take over Sports Talk Philadelphia. You come over and host SportsLine. There's Tyler right there. There he is, beautiful man. I'm waiting for a response. I would love to hear what you have to say about it. Hopefully he'll get back to me, Anna, next week, maybe on a show next week. I don't know. We'll see. So
that should be intense. But for Callie, Isaac, and our entire SportsLine team, I'm Anna Gomez.
And I'm Brendan Rigney. And for Tyler and the rest of LaSalle TV, thanks for joining, and we'll see you at the game.